man. But for people that might be listening to this, man, could you tell them who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Yep. So CEO Mark Savage, some just call me Savage. Man, and I'm an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur at that, investor. Man, we screenwriter, author, music producer. I'm an artist myself. I create my own music. Man, of course, husband, father. I mean, I can go down the list, but a couple of those to be exact for those who kind of been paying attention to me, those would be the ones that would stick out to them.
Man, I appreciate you walking us through that and then mentioning serial entrepreneur too, man. And we gotta add bestseller to that list as well, bro.
For sure. I appreciate that for sure, man. But one of those things, like I know we talked about it off camera, but that's when I realized, like, man, I really got a gift for the pen, because I know I had it musically, because I had done ghostwriting through Full Sail and done a lot of things writing music myself. But man, writing that book and then putting it out and then not knowing how people was gonna gravitate to it. And when I started seeing those numbers come through from Amazon and the Kindle showing me like, hey man, you just 100 books sold the first week, and now you at 150, and then it's 200, and then you look up and it's like 500 sales. I'm like, yo, they going crazy. Like, okay. So, and I was getting a lot of good feedback, man, from people about the book, man. So, yeah, it was shocking to me, bro. I'm not even gonna sit up here and be like, yeah, I knew I was going. Nah, nah, I wouldn't even lie like that. But yeah, it was a blessing to see that though.
Man, it's funny that you said that because I was just gonna ask you, man, and I asked you off camera, but you know, how does it feel and how did your life, really change when you saw that you had become a bestseller on Amazon?
Man, honestly, when I first saw it, like I said, I was surprised by the numbers, but seeing that, like, I've always been fairly pretty solid in school, but you know, reading or picking up a book back in the day wasn't my thing. I wasn't doing that, and to see me transform and know that, man, here I am writing a book myself, and it's a bestseller. Man, it was overwhelming at first, man, because I was getting so many people praising me. I got teachers and professors from college and all that who follow me like, yo, like that's crazy. Like, it was overwhelming at first because I'm like, dang, here it is. Somebody who, as a teenager growing up, hated reading, like didn't want to pick up a book. And now I can't stop but buy books and write books. And now, that moved me to writing films. And it just gave me a sense of confidence to know that, man, I really got a gift for gab when it comes to my pen, like, whether it's writing movies and, like I said, of course, writing music, that was day one, but, writing more books. And then, I'm actually looking into doing like the game writing now. So I actually just got hit up about game writing. So it's a lot, man. I'm just like, dang, like, man, my pen is actually better than I would have ever thought it was, because like I said, originally, I'm like, man, I can write music, but in my mind, anybody can write music. But now I'm like, no, you got a different type of gift, because like we talked about yesterday, like, man, if you can write hits, you can write books, and if you can write books, you can write films. And I just kind of, now I'm just tapping into all of that now, bro. I'm just like, man, I think I got the mindset and that imagination and that I guess you can say that wittiness about me to be able to put that stuff down and be able to put it in front of somebody and they be like, damn, we can do something with this. So yeah, that's the dopest part about it, man. That changed my life, because now, like, man, I'm not even afraid to write something and send it to somebody like, what you think about this, or hey, what you think about that? And man, every time I get feedback on it, they're like, bro, you creative as hell. Like, how you putting this out? And now I'm really in my bag with the pen now, man. So it's dope.
I gotta give you props, man, because as Black people, we just need to see us not willing or being willing to experiment, man. Like you didn't limit yourself to just music. You're doing films, you're writing books, you're about to go in a game. Congrats. Like, man, it's important to see that type of evolution and that risk taking. We got to rewrite these narratives, man. So I just want to give you your props on that. Um,
Respect, appreciate that, bro.
yeah, man. And I got to ask you in a follow-up question to that, you've lived the type of life that's kind of hard to put into words. How were you able to take all of your life experiences and put it into like principles? Like, how was that writing process of taking everything that was in your brain and being able to distill it into nine pillars?
Yeah, man, it was difficult because honestly, man, I really could have done like 50. You know what I mean? It was hard to do just nine, but the significance of the number nine. And I think being able to spoon feed people. You know, I read a lot, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and one thing about us as a consumer, man, we want it quick, fast, and easy, you know, and I understand that about us, man. So it's about like the psychology of the human, and we want things so quick. That's why fast food is a thing, even though we know it's bad for us. But it's people right now going through that drive-through line constantly, getting donuts, keep McDonald's, Burger King, you know, instead of staying home and cooking because it's the convenience of it. And I know 9 pillars and then a short read is like, okay, I got a short amount of time to grab you. I gotta catch you, you know, and I know if I catch you and I keep it direct, but at the same time be very detailed in what I'm trying to get across in my message, I know it'll really grab the people. So I really had to bear it down to 9, but I really could have done way more, man. And it kind of deep down inside of me kind of hurt because I was like, man, I want to do like 50 or 60, but I was like, let me not go overboard because I know it's only going to be a certain amount of people like yourself who won't really read that whole thing. And I know with it being 9, I had a lot of people be able to just read through that in like a day or two. Like, yo, I was able to get through it. It wasn't long. And, you know, surprisingly, out of like maybe the 30 or 40 people that hit me directly about the book, told me how important it was for them to read something that quick. But and I was like, see that I was telling the wife, like I told you, like people like the consumer just want something that easy. Like if it would have been a book that would have took them a week, 2 weeks to read, they wouldn't have got through it because it'd be like, oh man, I ain't got enough time in the day to read. I got to work. I got the kids. I got this. I got that. So I understood the purpose of just getting it to them, you know. And that was hard though because I really didn't want to, but I understood the like I said, dealing with our people and the human mind. I just know these days it's just easy just for them to grab 9, read it, and be like, dang, that was pretty dope. Especially when I'm looking towards grabbing the youth with the book more than anybody. I know with them, it's even worse because I know how I was as a teenager. Like I said, I wasn't picking up books. So, but to get somebody with the influence or somebody who is relatable, you can be like, man, let me, you know what I mean? Let me hear him out in these 9 pillars, you know? So I think that was pretty much the just of like putting that together and doing it that way.
Man, it's first I want to say that it is a really good read, and I like the fact that it was so easy to get through, but it was heavy, you know, still in the midst of it. You know, before we start peeling it back, as dope as a writer as you are, man, was there anybody that you used to kind of help guide you through that? Or was that just you sitting down and just going through it one on one?
Yeah, it was just me just going through it one on one, like just sitting down, like pretty much like me and you are right now, quiet space, no TV, no music, and just sitting there and just putting my thoughts together. Like, man, what really helped me develop and elevate to where I am today, doing the things I'm doing and being able to accomplish what I accomplished? What were 9 things that really like just made me who I am today and got me to where I am? And I just had to I had to go through the list and be like, okay, this probably was the most important. This was the most important. And then take those 9. And then I went from there and then started, you know what I mean, giving my, I guess you can say like my expertise or my experience from those 9. So
I can't wait to get into them because I got some good questions to ask you about the quotes. But before we get into that, I do want to mention, you know, I was looking over your resume at some of your accomplishments, man, and you know, it was just crazy, man. I saw NYU Tisch, dispensary logistics, real estate, all these things. Like, you know, can you kind of brief people on some of the things that they may not know that you've done over the course of your career? Like, you know, I know, but what
mhm.
are some accomplishments that you've kind of had that qualify you to be able to talk about the pillars of success?
Definitely. Well, of course, education wise, you know, my highest form of education is a master's degree. Certification wise, I was able to receive my license in cannabis, which is not easy and it's not cheap. You know what I mean? So that right there was hard as it because they don't want us in that as African people. They don't want us in that industry. So to even be able to maneuver through that and make that accomplishment right there was heavy. That was one. Another one was when you talk about being able to join the military and do what I did in the military. That's another industry that, you know, especially if you talk about someone who goes to college and commissions, you know, at one point you couldn't commission as a black guy or a black woman and be in the military and commission. Like that was one of those things they disregarded. Like, no, you can't be a commissioned officer in the military. Like that was something that wasn't heard of prior to. And don't get me to quote the date, but I know for sure post slavery, that was something that was like, nah, you wasn't doing it. So I know for sure that was very heavy because that was something that you know, whether you go in the ROTC route or you do the 110 GT score, you know, both of those aren't easy accomplishments. So being able to do that, also being a family man that I am, you know, I've been married, you know, right now I'm 7 years, going on 8 years married, and then I've been with my wife almost 10 years. So being able to speak about, you know, being a patriarch and you know, raising my son, he's 5, and being able to maneuver through life with those with that principle of still being a full-time father and full-time husband, you know, that's success in my eyes. You know, being able to tell someone how to manage not thinking with your penis, you know what I mean? Because that's one of the things that holds a lot of us back. And you know, you get into the wealth killers like child support and court and things like that, and having to deal with those stressors, man. So it's a lot, man. It's a lot, like you just said, like even with real estate, like we got Dirt Capital Group. I'm the chief of staff of Dirt Capital Group. Me and your frat brother Trey, he started Dirt Capital Group 2016 technically. I became a part of the firm in 2018 while I still was in the military. And then I was able to go and get my appraiser's license. So I'm able to appraise properties. And then seeing that I was helping him so much with the firm, he ended up like, hey, bro, I need you right here beside me, like doing the chief of staff stuff, man, because you pretty much, you the backbone right now while I'm going out trying to figure this out. Like you pretty much helped me on the back end. So that's how I got in real estate, just that connection of the frat, you know, at that point. And then just mentioning that, like organizations, like man, like being an alpha, being a Mason, you know, the Sigma Pi Phi, like doing all these different things that I've been able to be a part of that aren't like you're just walking apart organizations. Like you're not just walking into the frat, you're not just walking into being a Mason and things like that. So even with that knowledge and that wisdom that people would know or don't know about those organizations, that's a part of the reason why I feel like I'm able to speak about success and give people feedback on things I've been able to do and haven't been able to do. But the things I haven't been able to do, I feel like that's a part of my journey. You know, the things that I say I haven't been able to do are things that I plan on doing going forward. But yeah, like you said, it's a number of things, man. Like I said, with the credentials and the accolades, being able to be listed on Forbes in 2021, being listed on the Forbes there for the real estate that we were doing. Dirt Capital Group at this moment. Right now we have a portfolio of, I think it's about at around 4.8 million right now with Dirt Capital Group. Yeah, man, and just being able to do the things I've been able to do in corporate America, that's a whole nother stint. You know, I went to college and then I worked at a company called Red Ventures doing corporate America for a while. And then I went from doing that before I joined the military. Like I worked at Enterprise. Like that's why I say like I'm your regular guy. Like I'm, you know what I mean? Like I'm not the, oh man, I sold dope my whole life and then the rap stuff part. Nah, like I'm really one of them dudes that can tell you like what it's like to go up that stairwell or what it's like to go up that ladder step by step. And I think I'm highly qualified, even at 31 years old, to tell a 13-year-old some steps and some keys to get him to the next level and to get him that success that he's probably seeking. And then not to mention that, like just me just being well diverse in these different industries and getting these certifications and knowing the book side and then knowing the personal side of things. Man, it's a lot that go into it, but I think a lot of those skills are transferable to different things. You know what I mean? So you can do it, and I just think that just makes me highly qualified, man. Because like I said, I like to zone myself in being a regular dude. You know, I'm a regular average Joe. I'm not out here, you know, doing too much or trying to live above my means to prove a point. Like, no, I'm a regular guy, regular husband, regular father, regular businessman, bro. But I just been able to utilize my time to the best of his ability and been able to, I like to say, manipulate the system, and being able to rub shoulders and shake hands with the right people. And I've just been able to be in the right place at the right time. And I can teach the youth and even some adults that might not know what they want to do in life, how to get there. So,
You know, bro, I wouldn't call you regular. I would definitely say you're approachable though. And you were giving some of the jewels that you mentioned in your pillars. So I was like, man, let me go ahead and peel those back, man. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna state the 9, and then I'm gonna ask you about certain ones in particular and quotes that stuck out to you, if that's cool with you.
yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, man, for those who are listening, we're talking about your book, The Nine Pillars of Success, or The Nine Pillars to Succeed When You Come From Nothing. Number one is blend in until you can stand out. Two, appreciate what you have. Three, talks about learning about other cultures. Four is getting married earlier. Five is about adapting and using the tools in society. Six is about REITs, real estate and trade stocks. Seven, trust funds. Eight, understand how the country works. And nine is about making friends with people all around you. And, when I looked at all of them, the second one in particular really jumped out to me because, it says appreciate what you have. And in there, you mentioned two things that I want to get your input on. You said that it's all about having perspective and being content with what you have. How did you come to that conclusion, and what experiences kind of inspired you to name that chapter that?
Yeah, because I had as a young dude, man, I really went through that here. I really had a hard time growing up, where I really spent a lot of my years, like I would say like from ages 9 until about I turned like 12, going towards 13. And I spent a lot of time really trying to understand why I didn't have, like, why don't I got this? Why don't I have this? And I used to always get them old school sayings from my grandparents, like, you got to appreciate what you got. Like, man, God's not going to give you, you know what I mean, what you need to self-destruct. He's going to put the things in front of you that you need, not what you want. And when you be able to appreciate what God has put in front of you, he'll bless you with more, and I really didn't understand that until about 14. And I remember staying with and I just had got to a point where I was just like, yeah, I'm tired of stressing myself out about what I don't got, and that I can't get the Jordans that come out every week, and that I don't got the new video games for the PS2 and things like that. Like, I had to just like fall back from that and just be like, man, it is what it is. And I felt like the moment I did that is when I started realizing I was receiving more. Like, I really did. Like, I started feeling like, man, now it's like people was talking to me about working here, during the summer. Hey, man, you ever thought about doing this? And it was when I didn't care no more, was when I felt like everything started coming to me. And I was like, so when I cared and I was putting that energy out there, like, yo, I want to, yeah, it was like, nah. And it was like, soon as I fell back, it was like, man, I don't even care no more. It was like, that's the moment that I realized, like, man, you can get everything as long as you appreciate where you got, what you got, and where you are. Man, you can go further when you just appreciate that and just live in the moment, love the moment, and then God will recognize that, man. And whoever you believe in, Allah, whatever the case may be, but as long as you believe in self, you pray, you meditate, and just be thankful about what you got, man, a lot will come back. A lot will come back full surface, because see, what happens is when you get to thinking like, oh man, I got to get out here and get it, I got to go out here and finesse or finagle the way of life, or try to cheat my way there. I realized that every time I was cheating my way there, I was getting slapped down. Like, okay, well, let me go out here with the homies and try to sell weed. Grandma done washed the weed in my pants. I left it there. Like, I'm like, Lord, man, I can't win. Like, okay, and then you know what I mean? Okay, I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna go out here, and the homies talking about hitting this lick. You go hit the lick and you end up getting caught. And then you like, dang, like, man, y'all did this 5 times before I did it. And the time y'all do it with me, I get caught. Okay. And I just kept going and that's when I stopped caring. I was like, man, I'm gonna just, what it is. If I ain't got, I ain't got. And then it was at that moment when I realized, like, bro, as long as you appreciate what you got, man, you'll get more. But you have to appreciate what you got to get to the next level, or to be able to understand what it's like to have more. Because some of us don't even appreciate where we are right now. We're so focused on, oh, what so-and-so see on Instagram, or so-and-so said he got a 4-bedroom house, I'm still in a 1-bedroom apartment. We so caught up into that we forget that, like, man, if you build around what you got, you'll get that. But you got to live in your moment. You got to live in your truth. And the moment you do that, man, it'll come back full surface. So.
What's funny? The story that stuck out to me in that chapter was you talking about when you went to Family Dollar as a kid. What was that experience like for you going to Family Dollar, and how did your time at Family Dollar? You also mentioned this concept of keep your eyes on your own paper. How did you go from, like, you know what, we going to Family Dollar, I'm okay with this experience, And then how did that give you the gem of later being like, you know what, life is a test and keep your eyes on your own paper?
Yeah, because I again that kind of falls in line with the whole thing about me just looking at everybody else and wanting to do what they did. Like, your parents got Target money. My people don't got that. We going to Family Dollar to get stuff, and sometimes it was going in there. I was getting my white tees and my white beaters and stuff out of there, man. And grandma couldn't afford to go to Target and get the nice expensive stuff. Like, we going to Aldi's to get the off-brand stuff. Like, man, that's how we grew. That's how I was growing up. And I had to realize that, like, I took that my concept of, like, man, being content and loving where you are, and then that transferred over to me once it started getting to the point where I became an adult and becoming a man. Keep your eyes on your own paper, because you'll start to, like I was doing as a kid, you'll start to look at other people and be like, man, I can do what they doing. In some cases, that's not always true, especially when you get to talking about a quick buck, and I know a lot of times when you looking at somebody else's paper, you'll be like, man, I know he over there, you know what I mean? And he messing with the Fetty or something. He doing the fentanyl or the pills, and you'll get to thinking like, man, let me go holler at him and do that. Even though your heart really telling you that ain't the move, but you'll go over there and do that because you're looking at his paper. And like I said, that's what I was talking about earlier, where I was like, you'll go over there and do it, and then you'll get caught up. And next thing you know, you sitting there facing 10 years for some fentanyl pills. And you like, dang, like, man, what's up? Like, why he was able to do this and but you was looking at his paper. Don't do that. Like, just keep your eyes on your own paper. Like they say, like they teach us in school, like, keep your eyes on your own paper, do what you do, and develop your skills, because cheating off of him might be the wrong answer. You looking over there thinking that's the right answer. That could be all wrong. You getting an F because you wasn't, you really probably would have got a B had you just focused on what you knew. But because you doubting yourself and being like, man, you know what? I'm gonna just B, C, A, and he wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's where the concept of, like, keep your eyes on your own paper, because I put those two and two together. Like, I seen somebody post that meme about it, but that's a fact, bro. Like, just keep your eyes on your own paper, because you are on the right track and you focus on somebody else, they doing it wrong. And like I said, you don't know if they doing it right because you don't know what position they are in. You don't know where they are. Because on the outside, we all could look top dollar. But on the inside, man, a lot of us ate up. And a lot of us don't have that intellect or that mindset to be studying or to be ahead of the game or whatever, ahead of the curve. So you get out here trying to cheat the system, man, you'll fail every time. And I learned that again as a teenager, like 14, 15. So,
Man, there was a lot of gems given in that chapter. I can't wait for people who may be listening who've already heard it. I can't wait to get their perspective, and people who haven't, I can't wait to get to their perspective, man. And then in Principle 3, you talked about cultural awareness, man. Like, I knew you grew up in a diverse area, but how did your experiences as a child and your experiences in the military, how did that cultural awareness, how did that help you?
Because it gives you a sense of understanding, like, especially business wise, it gives you a sense of, like, that cultural awareness to understand that, one, it's a lot of people that value Black culture, and you won't really know how much of an influence you have in Black culture until you get around other cultures. And then they telling you about your culture, you like, huh? Like, you looking at them like, you know about that? They're like, yeah, I watch Minister Society, or I watch Boys, and you like, oh. But the cultural, like, I guess you could say the cultural ignorance is white people don't like us, or Asians don't like us, or whatever. But truth be told, we are the most influential people on earth. You see what I'm saying? And we don't realize that because we're so stuck in our hood. We so stuck in our project. So when I went to the military, and when I grew up, when I was going to go play football in school and had to go to South Met, where that's a predominantly white area, and going to school with them, I realized, like, back then I got dreadlocks, and I'm rocking the locks, and I'm walking around school looking like I'm straight out the hood. And I was getting so much, like, attention, so much respect. And I was thinking, like, man, I'm about to go ahead and fight. White boys probably gonna hate me. The white girls probably gonna be trying to say I'm gonna rape them and stuff, like, because that's the cultural ignorance that I had going to that school. But when you get there, you realize, like, nah, that's not necessarily the truth. And then you get to realize, like, man, I was going to school and I was making hustles at the school just based on my influence on them. And it was like, oh, okay. I see where it's going. I did the same thing in the military, selling clothes, bag chasing clothing. And then, you know, I'm doing everything I'm doing, you know, with the real estate and stuff like that. And they coming to me like, yo, bro, I wanna rock with y'all, Dirk Capital Group. Yeah, I know this other dude, but I wanna mess with you, bro. I wanna rock with you. I'm like, but he your people's, but it's like, nah, I want to deal with Savage. Like, I don't care about, you know what I mean, Johnny, that's the real estate agent. Nah, I want to deal with you. And I'm like, okay. And like I said, but again, the cultural awareness is that we don't understand that because again, we so caught up in that little box that we always forget who we really are sometimes. And we have to step out of that box to understand who we really are. And I did that. And I was like, yeah, bro, like we are really, yeah, commander in chief is over here. You know what I mean? It ain't where we really think in our minds it is. It's not. Like, and I think I was so glad to do that as far as school and the military because that showed me a different perspective on, you know, what other cultures think about us because that helped me out business wise. For real. Like, honestly.
It's funny you mention that, man, because you know, I got a couple homies, including you, who are in the military, and you know, the military is suffering from like it's some of its lowest enlistment numbers, man, and you know, the stigma that comes with Black people in the military. You know, one of the things you talked about in the book was, you know, the importance of the military and what it offered you. You know, how do you feel about the current dilemma that the military is facing, and even though Boys in the Hood told us what it told us, do you still feel like the military isn't a place for Black people?
Um, so with that answer, I'm 50-50. I think there are some brothers out here that shouldn't go. I think it's some brothers out here that are so damaged and they're so like selfless that they still need to find themselves outside of the hood, outside of the gang, and they need to understand life a little bit differently because if you get in there and that cultural awareness I'm talking about mess with you mentally and you can't take it, you'll get put out because the first chance of any racism or fighting or anything like that, you already put your career on the line. So I do think 50% of us don't need to go. I do think it's a good bit of brothers and sisters that need to stay away from it. But the brothers that coming up who are educated and they might not have the means to have a lot of money or the trust fund or, you know, wealthy parents or whatever the case may be, it is a great investment to an individual who needs a start, who needs a place to be pinpointed to where they can go. Even if you only do 4 years, man, I think it's a great attribute because it's a lot of things that would, and me and you know, we talk about this, but there's a lot of things that was stolen that the military has that we don't have in place anymore. You know what I mean? And with that being said, there's a lot of things I was able to identify like, oh, okay, I know where that comes from. I know where this comes. Okay, yep, okay, with the rifle and the trainings and all of that stuff. I'm like, man, a lot of this stuff just was taken, you know, and that's why I understand that. And I'm like, the military isn't as bad as it's been perceived, you know, but I do understand the benefits of joining, you know, outside of just the first and the 15th salary checks. There is a lot of benefits that come when you get out, like, you know, those that get medical retirements like I did and stuff like that. That's a lifelong, you know, income for you, you know what I mean, post-military and the health care for your kids and the education that comes along that's free with that. You know, some people really need that boost because you just don't have the means to get it any other way without it being illegal. So I do think 50% of us should go because of that cause. And I do think it's another 50% of us that aren't mature enough to be in that area where you can understand this side of the hand and that side. And I think if you don't understand that and you aren't there mature enough to be able to go in there and understand that I'm really who I am, don't go. Because when you go in there and you go in there thinking you're beneath everybody, you won't last. Like you won't even probably make it out of basic training because your mentality is already, I'm coming in here beneath all these quote unquote the white man. I'm coming in here beneath them. But if you come in there understanding you all on the same playing field, you will understand that cultural awareness that, man, they looking up to you. You know, they looking up to you. It's no different than LeBron James or Tiger Woods or whoever these individuals are that go and play in these leagues and dominate. And you do got the people that's like, dang, boy, because they only give us that respect. Black people can play some basketball. Black people can rap. But we can do a lot of things. And if you had that cultural awareness, you'll realize that, like, even in the military, Black dudes that really thrive to be in the military at the top of their game in there, man. It's no different than corporate America, teaching, education. Man, we really be making a difference, you know. And I do feel like, yeah, like I said, half of us should go, half of us shouldn't. I do. I still see the other side of it where they're like, it isn't for us, because there is a group of people that will join and get put out. So I'm not gonna lie to them and be like, yo, bro, yeah, it'll be good for you. No, because I know you'll get in there and lose it, or you'll get in there and won't understand your position and you'll get put out. So I do get that side too.
I appreciate your honesty. Like I told you, man, just keeping it real with brothers because they never really get the perspective. People either think, you can't be culturally aware and be black and be in the military, or they deal in the extreme. So I appreciate, the balance.
Absolutely.
You mentioned another controversial topic in your book when you're encouraging people to get married early, man. It shouldn't be controversial, but social media has made a landscape where like all we do is battle of the sexes all day, man. Why do you think being married early is important, and how did marriage enhance your life?
Yeah, being married early, man, in my opinion, because I know a lot of brothers that's, 30, 31, and that they're still young technically, but they're in their 30s now, still unmarried, still don't have kids. And they're in a crisis where it's like, man, I can't find a woman who don't already got kids, or I can't find a woman who don't just think it's all about the money, and I keep telling brothers that those women, you can't blame them because they've been damaged. They've been manipulated to feel like, okay, the last dude I got pregnant by or had kids with, he did wrong by me. I don't get nothing from him. Like, only thing I can get is this child support or whatever the case may be. And they're damaged. So the next guy that they bring in, they feel like, okay, you got to bring something to the table because this last dude done screwed me over. So you coming to the table, I need something from you. And then they've been manipulated to feel like that's the best way to handle dudes these days. And on the men's side, they have been, I think men, we've been, especially I would say millennials more than anybody, we've been corrupted to feel like you got all the time in the world to get married. But then in the midst of that time, you still sleeping around. You still got multiple sex partners. You end up with multiple kids, which puts you behind because you paying child support for this kid, that kid, and you sitting back stressing like, man, child support tearing me up. I can't win. Or you going to jail because you're not paying child support and you going through the court system and you sitting back wondering like, dang. And every brother I know that's like that, be like, man, see, if I knew this, man, I would have just married my Easter from high school, or I would have just married so-and-so from college I was messing with, bro. Like, I wouldn't even, every brother I know says that to this day that's not married right now. They all say that, like, bro, I hate being outside. Like, man, I wish I would have just stuck with so-and-so because now she married, doing her thing with her husband. I be seeing them on Instagram or Facebook. And man, they doing good. Look like they doing good anyway. And it'd be like, dang, bro, like here I am, messing with these women and, having to potentially be a stepdad, which you really don't want to be. But because you didn't get married early, you didn't commit yourself to not thinking with your penis and commit yourself to a woman early in life before she got corrupted and manipulated by, like I say, the system of the sexy red and the system of, hey, F these niggas and doing all that. Before she got done like that and fell asleep to that, man, you could have had that woman and built with that woman, and she wouldn't be the woman who society done made her become. Because I feel like a lot of those women just become that because they see other women benefiting from what I think Jermaine Dupri called a scrap rap, or or benefited from that genocide of like, okay, I'm a woman and I got to use what I got to get what I want. And a lot of women just fall suit for that because they be like, well, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Men pay money for this and I'm going to show it off and I'm going to give it away. And then that's taking over the culture, man. So now we got a bunch of just young girls coming up, and if they get to a certain age, that becomes their ideology. Like, yeah, if he ain't bringing no money to the table, I don't got nothing to do with him. So I think getting married early or being able to understand that you want to commit early will prevent a lot of those mishaps that's going on in the culture, because that leads to the family division, because now we're not building families. And then without families, we don't have community. And then without communities, we just all out here just free for all, every man for themselves. Don't nobody care about nobody. Kids dying, mama's dying, daddy's dying. There's no rules, there's no morals, there's no values because the homes are broken, the communities are broken, and it's a full surface. So I feel like to better your success story, man, you should really be trying to commit yourself early as possible. And I see it with other cultures. Other cultures do it all the time. And they be like, I wonder why they be getting married at 18, 19, sometimes younger than that. I'm like, because they are already programmed to believe that you should only be with one woman. Because in reality, that's the way it should be anyway. You know what I mean? And if you're going to reproduce, no, because a lot of people say, oh, we supposed to reproduce. if you're gonna reproduce with that one woman. You know, nobody's telling you not to do that. Please do that. But on the back end of that, man, make sure you're doing it within the family. You know what I mean? And if every brother had their own woman, that'll prevent a lot more. That'll stop a lot of these deaths that happen. Because let's be real, most of these deaths are being caused by women. Most of the men that's killing each other, it's over a woman. Like we see it all day, social media, Instagram. Women are the vocal point of men killing each other. And it's because you're sleeping around with everybody, and then he's sleeping around with everybody. Now y'all running across each other, baby mamas and girlfriends and all of that. And you sitting back like, oh, now as a man, we territorial because by nature we are. So now it's like, oh, you ain't finna do that with my woman. And you feel like, oh, well, I ain't finna bow down because I can't let her feel like now y'all killing each other. And I think it's just a whole bunch of just BS that's going on because we have lost the value of marriage, bro. That's my true opinion. And I think, just to answer your second part of the question, marriage benefited me because when I met my wife in college, we had to both had that understanding, like, man, I want a family. I wanted a family too. And I was like, man, I really have to make sure that I commit myself to this because, you know, as a young college dude, frat boy, athlete, whatever, you know, it's temptations. But man, I really realized when I set my mind to it and said, I'm not going to think with my head below my waist. I'm going to think with my head on my shoulders. Man, I feel like, man, I made the best decisions I could have made doing that. And then my wife has been that backbone that a lot of us men be seeking when we out here single, living a bachelor's life. My wife has been that for me. And that's been able to push me to go out here and do these things that, like you said, you and everybody else see me doing. They be like, dang, bro, like, how you be doing so much? Because I got a wife back here like, babe, you can do that shit. Like, do it. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, I'm going to help you. What you need me to do? You know what I mean? I got that at the crib. So it's like, I feel unstoppable with her, with me, because I just be like, man, I got somebody really here. Like, man, if I fall short of this, you want me to finish writing that page or type it up for you? You see what I'm saying? I got that at the house. So I'm not sitting there like stressing myself out like, Lord, no, because I got a woman right here that's like, yeah, babe, you want me to do this? Oh, you want me to help you with that? Man, matter of fact, I'm going to cook. I'm going to do all that. You focus on, I'm going to get him a bath. I'm going to do all this. You do that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, thank you. You see what I'm saying? And that sometimes that's all we need, bro. Just that peace of mind. And a lot of brothers aren't at peace. And it's because you're dealing with all these women, all of those spiritual, you know, bodily fluids you passing around to each other. You know, we can go that route too. Like, y'all all passing around this trauma sexually, and it's being transmitted from person to person to person to person. And then it's being passed along to the kids. And then now you having these kids out of wedlock, and then they being destroyed and damaged because the family's broken and y'all did that and y'all didn't love each other. Y'all hated each other. You was just doing that to get your rocks off. And now it's like, now the kids suffering for that. Now they growing up and it's the same cycle. You see what I'm saying? So, man, it gets deep. But, man, that's a pillar that I wish I would have been able to dive into a lot more. But, of course, I like having these conversations because I can elaborate on it because I know it's going to grab people to be like, yo, bro, I know you got married young, but hold on. What makes you feel like everybody should do that? And I'm like, this is why. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Man, I appreciate your honesty. I thought that was a major key, and I can agree because I just look at the quality of my life since I've been married and since I met my wife. It's just been on the up, man, and because it's emotional stability. You're not spiritually dividing yourself, like you know we've had that talk. So I appreciate you giving us that key. I'm gonna be honest. You know, another key that you gave people, you talked about finance, like you talked about the cultural tools. You talked about the emotional tools, but bro, you really dived into finance, man. And you know, I would be wrong if I didn't ask you about it because you do have to educate the people, man. Could you tell people, you know, we've heard about trust, we've heard about, you know, the benefits of it, but could you talk about a little bit about the benefits of a revocable trust and what a revocable trust even is?
Yes. So you have the revocable trust and the irrevocable trust. Both can be created for different reasons. So to me, the average person in the world should have an irrevocable trust. I personally feel like if you can, depending on the circumstances, you should do both because there is some tax breaks in there when it comes to the revocable, irrevocable trust. But every American, every African, whatever you are, if you read the book or if you listening to me, everybody should at least have an irrevocable trust because it prevents your family to having to go to courts when you pass away and having to spend all of that money going to court, trying to fight over who gets what. And then at the end of the day, nobody ends up with nothing because you having to pay these attorneys and court costs. And then they end up splitting it up or they ended up giving it to somebody who didn't deserve it. And then you sitting there like, well, dang, he said on his will it's supposed to went to me. but that doesn't justify what happens when he passed away, because anybody can take you to court based on that will, because that will, for all they know, is it could have been, tampered with, or whatever the case may be. That's why they go to court for it. And with that trust solidifies what you want to go where. Where do you want this? How do you want this split up? And it's done by an attorney. You can do it yourself, but of course, it's really the way I do it. I tell people to do it with an attorney, so you can have that third party witness there. And of course, you can go and lay out everything you got. If it's the house, if it's cars, jury, book royalties, music royalties. You can literally lay that stuff out, put it in a trust, and tell where it's designated to when you pass away, and nobody has to worry about going to court for it. Like, the trust is literally a guaranteed, solidified documentation that prevents anybody from losing anything or having to have anything taken from them by, like the bank with the house. The house could be taken, or things that like maybe like the music royalties. Like, man, if you don't have that stuff in a trust, man, it can really be bid on. And I tell people that, like, man, that's one of the most important reasons I tell people to look into the irrevocable and revocable trust. And then you also have the overseas trust, which to me, that's when you're playing with big money, and you need to, that's one of the ones, that's one of them key gems on the outside. But overseas trust is for an individual. Like, let's say you got $1 million and you don't want nobody to know, you don't want anybody to touch it, and you also don't want to deal with the IRS, the overseas trust, and they have those, and it's a certain way you can, put those out and get that laid out. But yeah, the overseas trust is a third one that, somebody who playing with some paper, got some real estate and things like that, I would suggest they look into those too. And that could be laid out the same way the revocable and irrevocable trust is too. So for the most part, man, it's about the generational wealth and the well-being of your kids and those who are going to be there after you pass away. I think the trust is like a mandatory document everybody should do. Like, guarantee everybody should do it. Whether you got big money, little money, you should still do it.
Bro, I appreciate that gentle reminder, because I just put it this way. I know how it is, because I'm gonna be going through that now with my pop, who's gonna transition, because he's in his 80s. He's in his 80s, so it's like, man, just having everything lined up while you were young, so that you don't have to worry about it when you're later. And our people, we sometimes don't think about the next 3 generations of what we're doing, like how we setting them up for success or keeping them from falling. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
man, talk a little bit about REITs, because when you mentioned it, like I told you offline, I was like, man, I just felt good to know that doing my little studies and looking at my little Amazon free books, I found out about it. I was like, oh, I was up on that. But for those who may not know, man, just put them up on game.
Definitely. So real estate, like I said earlier, like I'm of course I do real estate. I'm involved with real estate. I'm an appraiser, but on the back end of that, I'm an investor. So the real estate, what you just said, the REITs, the REITs, they're real estate investment trust. And basically what they are essentially stocks for real estate. So you have companies out here that take your funds that you're investing, and they utilize that for those properties, and then they give you dividends on top of that money that you're investing. So if you invest $1,000, they may use your $1,000 on different properties, and then they may give you a $3 or $4 dividend for that $1,000 you invested. And of course, as that property appreciates, your dividends appreciate, and of course, that account grows with those. And of course, it's just like anything else. The more money you put in, the more you'll get back. But it's definitely an easy way to invest with real estate without having to spend what most people would assume, like the 6 figures or the couple $1,000s to invest into a house and fixing it and flipping it and things like that. Real estate investment trusts are an easy way for the average individual, young teenager trying to figure out what they can invest into, where they can start putting their money into. I always suggest REITs. And a good application to always look into that's very user friendly is Fundrise.
Man, thank you for telling them about Fundrise. Like I said, that's what I've done, and I've just done my $100 a month. That's all I do. Throw something small at it just to see it. But seeing my dividends be reinvested and come back, I'm like, yo, it's just been a good feeling knowing that if I probably put a little more to be bigger, but I just have something in there as an investment. So it's a good feeling.
Good deal, bro. I'm glad you're doing that, because that's
man.
hope that you even heard about it, because a lot of times when I mention it to people, they be like, "What's that?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, we got to." That's why I like putting out the education, especially for the youth, because I know they don't know. You know what I mean?
No.
Because a lot of us millennials, we don't know about it. You know, and I found out about it when I got into real estate. Of course, rubbing those elbows, and the dude was like, "Yo, man, you know, I'm pretty sure you got a pretty nice REIT portfolio." I was like, "What's that?" You know what I mean? He like, "You don't got a REIT portfolio?" I was like, "Nah." He's like, "Oh man, let me put you on game. You know, this is what a REIT is. Here's a couple of applications you can use to invest." And he was like, "Man, you should definitely do that, man. Take some money, put it there, let it grow, let it appreciate." He was like, "It's not something you got to watch. It's not something you got to constantly be on, but it's definitely something you want to keep reinvesting into." But yeah, man, that's dope. You doing that, bro. You already was hip. So I'm like, yeah, that's dope.
Man, I just be trying to stay hip to the game, and like you said, what you really just said was the last two principles, making friends in the area and understanding how the country works. You know, for where we're at now as a people, you could say as American people, as Black people in general, how can we apply these last two principles of understanding how the country works and making friends in the same area? How can we use those last two pillars to succeed?
Definitely. I would say for the making the country like understanding the country that we live in, the three biggest ones to me that everybody should take from that is one, understanding law. I think law is something that a lot of us don't know about. We don't, and half of the people that do understand law to a certain degree is because they went to prison. They went to jail. Like they have to be at the bottom to like start going to the library reading up on laws. No, I think we should do that off top. We should understand gun laws. We should understand the laws of the state that we're in. We should understand the laws of the country itself. You know, understanding freedom of speech. We say that, but what does that really mean? You know, like we say right to bear arms, but what does that really mean? Like what details goes into that? You know, and then what on the local level, what prevents that from being different than what you might have read with the Constitution? Like what? Like you just have to really break all of that stuff down. And then that also transfers to the second topic, which in my opinion is understanding voting. Because I know some people say, "Oh, what's the point of voting?" Man, it's a lot of people that should be in these offices and a lot of people that should be, the mayor, that should be on the council, the city council and things like that, who help make these changes that we think don't matter or we might not see, but it's because we're not engaged into what's going on locally in our own cities. And we be sitting back wondering, like, man, why they doing this? Well, nobody went to that meeting, that town hall meeting. So guess what? They just went ahead and flew it by and said, "Yep, we gonna do this." And we don't attend that stuff. We're not engaged. We don't even know what goes on in those things. And we just kind of sit back and be like, it is what it is. Whatever happens, happens. But we got to change that. We got to start getting more engaged. So that's point two. With that, understanding that. And then the big one is understanding what they've given us, understanding why you have a birth certificate, why do you have a social security number, why when you go to the bank, why does the bank hold your funds, but when you go and actually try to get that money out, you can't? Why is the world the way it is? Like understanding why these institutions are set up the way they are. And then when you understand that, you understand the financial part of it. FINRA, understanding these different institutions that are set to keep us to a certain like degree of where we don't surpass that. Why is it set up like that? And just sit back and like really do your research on everything that we have that makes us a quote unquote United States citizen. Like what makes you a little United States citizen? Like how can that be different than the Nigerian or the person that's coming from Eritrea that comes to America? What makes him different, or what did he have to go through to become a United States citizen? And then understanding like to go a little bit more in depth, like kind of like putting yourself in the shoes of somebody who like just came to America and they don't know about banks, they don't know about the Social Security, because they don't know about none of that. And they just went and did their research. Like really put yourself in those shoes instead of just putting your life on autopilot. Like, man, I'm just going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home. Nah, because I feel like when you do that, now you caught into that cycle they want you to be in. And I seen a video, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it was a video where it was like, man, you could look at the cars from the 1800s and look at a car in 2024. You like, okay, I see the advance. You can look at a house from the 1800s, look at a house in 2024. You're like, okay, I can see the advancement. You can look at a phone from the 1800s, 1900s and look at a phone in 2024 and be like, I see the advancement. Clothes, shoes, everything has advanced. But when you look at that classroom, it has stayed the same. It has stayed the same. Nothing about educating us has changed. Nothing. Nothing has changed about our education system. And that's one of those things I really sit back and I like really be like wondering like why. But it's like because we're designed to go from that classroom to a job and listen to somebody just like we have been. It's not, the education system isn't training us to be entrepreneurs. Because if it did, we would have tax classes. We would have classes that teach us about investing and things like that. That's why I love talking to brothers like you who are in education, because I know that individual, go ahead. Because I know that an individual like you understands these principles and you can make a difference. And you can make a difference with those kids when you talk to them. You know what I mean? So that's why, like, I just tell people, like, man, it's huge to understand the country that we in and understand the moves that need to be made so that you can basically maneuver through life without having to worry about the stressors that most of our grandparents had to go through because they weren't educated about it. They didn't know any better. But now we got the resources right here. You see what I'm saying? It's right in our hand, you know? Hold on one second. You see what I'm talking? It's right here. It's right here in our faces. And I just feel like, man, we just don't take advantage of that. And it's plenty of ways to find these things out. There's plenty of books out there. There's plenty of people on YouTube who talk about it, who just don't even care these days. But again, it's not the ratchets or it's not the typical drama or BS. So we just overlook it, but we need to stop doing that. So for that one, that's that. And then as far as, you know, rubbing elbows and like networking and being able to get out and really just meet people that you wouldn't on a normal basis, that helps because you can learn something from everybody. I think that's the general overall principle of that. Like you can learn something from the guy who works at General Motors. You can learn something from the guy that works at McDonald's. You can learn something from the kid that works at Apple. You know, you can learn something from the entrepreneur that has his own clothing shop. Like you can learn something from everybody. And I treat everybody the same. Like, you know, I greet you with respect. I was going to be respect regardless. And I think that holds a lot of value when you meet people. Even when people sometimes come off maybe like sassy, rude, even when people come off sassy or rude with me, I still show them love and respect back, you know, because I just understand sometimes that's just who people are. But I don't know who this guy is, though. So sometimes I just take that and be like, okay. And I just kind of let him do his thing or let him act how he act. And I just kind of like just sit there and pick his brain. Because eventually he's going to be like, he's not going to keep that same attitude the whole time. Eventually he's going to be like, man, what's up with this guy? You know what I mean? I done that a couple times and come to find out like, yeah, man, I'm sorry about the way I acted, man. I was frustrated with this flight, man. My first class got mixed up, man, and I'm trying to fly to San Diego, man. I work at, you know, I deal with IT out there in Sun Valley or something like that. I'm like, oh, what would you do with IT? Oh, I make the tips for the cars. Really? Okay. And then now we in conversation. I'm meeting him, and now I'm getting an understanding about some small microchips that they put in these new smart cars that he telling me, yeah, you might want to invest into it, man. We're looking for stakeholders. You see what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, cool. And that's been a lot of my success too. That's why I got my cannabis license. That's how I got my like talking to a guy, and he brought that up to me about the cannabis industry, you know, and we went through the process of me being able to get the license, you know what I mean? And stuff like that has helped me, man. And I just feel like, man, a lot of times we got to get out of seeing somebody who looks like us and be like, oh yeah, man, what's up, bro? Sometimes, man, you got to grow out of that and get to the point where you look at everybody like that. Like, don't just limit yourself to just our people, because sometimes when you do that, like I said, you limit yourself to what knowledge is out there, because no offense to blacks, no offense to us as people, but it's a lot of stuff we missing out on. You know what I mean? And we're not going to get the information by thinking we keeping it in-house, because it's a lot of stuff we're late on. Like a lot of us just are getting to the point we getting LLCs. You know, like we're just getting to that point within like the last 2-3 years. Man, LLC's been around for how long? You know what I mean? Like business credit, net 30 accounts, that stuff been around for how long? And we just getting to the point where we starting to dig into that. And that's why I say, like, that's why I feel like, man, you got to get out and network and rub shoulders and shake hands with the shakers and movers, man. And sometimes that's not always us. So.
Man, I appreciate your honesty with that, and I gotta restate the book again because people might have lost it. But Nine Pillars to Succeed: When You Come From Nothing, man. Where can people purchase it? Can they only purchase it on Amazon?
Yep, only on Amazon. And if you want a signed copy, just reach out to me directly. CEO Mark Savage on Instagram. You can reach me there. just DM me. Let me know you want a signed copy of the book. I got copies here at the house that I personally will sign to you, personal. Send it to you. You know what I mean, and you can have it that way. But other than that, yeah, Amazon.
Hey, just don't forget me. We talked about already. You know
Oh
my
yeah,
autograph copy. I need that, man.
too easy. It's too easy.
So, man, I was gonna ask you, at this point, like I said, you've already did, a book. We know you got some films and things coming. What can people expect from you for the rest of 2024? Like, what do you have for the next 5 months?
2024. The rest of 2024, I'm planning to release a children's book. So I'm in the midst of children's book, and putting that out probably before the end of the year. That's one of the things they can look forward to. Also, I got Royalty Entertainment, which my main act is my DJ, DJ King, who is doing phenomenal things. He just DJ for Big Bank. He's doing stuff. He just did something with T Grizzly this year. Man, he had stats every weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. He left Vegas because he was one of the resident DJs for Usher when he was in Vegas. He was on Moneybagg Yo's tour. He did a couple. He was the house DJ for a couple of Moneybagg Yo tour dates when he was on tour going into this year. And then he has a lot of other things coming up. Possibly a liquor deal, probably with a tequila brand. We working on that. So Royalty Entertainment and my children's book, man, that's pretty much what they can expect from me on the entertainment side. But personally, Dirk Capital Group is making a lot of great moves in the real estate game. We got a lot of investments available of those who have at least a $10,000 capital to invest. They can invest with Dirk Capital Group and get a pretty nice, hefty return back. So Dirk Capital Group is something they can look forward to with me. Also, I'm still debating on it. A lot of people have been asking me to get back into the Bag Chasers clothing. I'm thinking about relaunching Bag Chasers probably in the fall. It just depends on the manufacturers because originally the manufacturing deal I had before, they went out of business. So and I wasn't able to find someone that was giving me that same product, and I'm not going to deliver anything that I feel like is mediocrity. So that's why the Bag Chasers clothing kind of came to a halt. But outside of that, real estate, Royalty Entertainment, my new children's book, please go buy the 9 Pillars to Succeed when you come from nothing. And also, they can expect to see a lot more of me engaging with the films. I'm just a screenwriter at this point, but I am looking to get to the point where I may be co-producing or maybe direct my own or, maybe anything that, the opportunities are endless on that, especially with the new program we got called Tubi, which is making a lot of people a lot of great money, man, and in the film industry right now. So never know, bro. Like I said, right now, just working with a bunch of people with my pen game right now, but hopefully maybe by the end of the year, they might see a few things from me on the director side or something like that. Maybe I can help co-produce something, but yeah, that's what they can look forward to.
Man, Mark, I gotta ask you one more question. And you shared it before, but how can people follow you? How can they get in contact with you and see everything that you're doing?
Yes. So of course, for my individuals that want to reach me in regards to real estate, or if you want to reach me in regards to anything personal, like about cannabis and if you need me to do anything project management wise, that's something else too. I'm actually a project manager. So if you need me to do anything to help your company or your business, you want to contract me out to help you on the project management side, my LinkedIn is my government. It's Mark Sanders, JR on LinkedIn. That's also my name on Facebook. But if you want to reach me in regards to everything entertainment wise, my YouTube is CEO Mark Savage. My Instagram is CEO Mark Savage. I do not have a Twitter. That's the underworld. I don't mess with Twitter. And I don't have a TikTok. You know what I mean? But I do Instagram is my platform to make sure I'm staying engaged and staying up to date on everything. And so if you really want to reach me in regards to anything with movies, music, Royalty Entertainment, anything like that, at CEO Mark Savage on Instagram and my YouTube.
Bro, is there anybody that you want to shout out and send love to, man, before we peace out?
Man, definitely. First and foremost, man, you, man, for the interview, man, I appreciate you for bringing me on the second time, man, and definitely going to do more in the future. So shout out to you, man. Shout out to everybody in my circle, man. DJ King, shout out to him. Shout out to Trey Durr, who I run real estate with. Shout out to, of course, the wife. Shout out to her. I know she's going to watch this when I post it. Shout out to, man, there's so many people, man. Oh, shout out to my boy Termel. Termel is the first person to give me my first opportunity to write my first Tubi movie. That's gonna be coming out probably not this year. It's gonna be next year because they start shooting in the fall. But shout out to Termel, man. He out of Detroit. He's a big mover and shaker with the Detroit films that come out. So shout out to Termel, man. And shout out to anybody, man, who knows me. So many people to name that have been supportive and supported me, bought the book, planning to buy the book, bought clothes from me, invested in real estate with us, anything, interviewed me, Jay Hill, Tally Spencer. So many different platforms, man, that done interviewed me. Hot 107, Power 98 in Charlotte interviewed me. Shout out to No Limit Larry, JD the Diva with the Dirt. Man, I can go down the list, but yeah, shout out to everybody who has had anything to do with me progressing or showcasing who I am to the world, man. Shout out to y'all.